You're scrolling through endless listings, trying to decide if a pre-built gaming rig is worth the cash, and the fear of ending up with a machine that can't keep up with the games you love is real. It's especially tricky when the PC looks like a piece of art. This one comes in a bold Ocean Park pink chassis, which means you're also buying a statement piece for your desk. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, so you can see the exact configuration before you decide. I spent a few days setting this system up, running a mix of newer titles and a few older multiplayer favorites, just the way a typical gamer would. The first thing you notice is the sheer size of the tower. The 360mm AIO water cooler sits proudly at the front, and the RGB Fusion 2.0 app lets you dial the lighting from a soft pastel glow to a full-on rave. That kind of visual flair can be a deal-breaker for some and a turn-off for others. But beyond aesthetics, the real question is whether the internals actually deliver the smooth experience you expect. Let's talk about the heart of the machine. An AMD Ryzen 5 9600X paired with an AMD Radeon RX 9070 XT 16GB. On paper, the 6-core, 12-thread CPU is a solid mid-range performer, and the 9070 XT is positioned as a 1080 PTO 1440p workhorse. In practice, I was able to push titles like Cyberpunk 2077 and Elden Ring at 1080p with medium-high settings while staying comfortably above 60 frames per second. When I dropped down to 1440p, the frame rates dipped a bit in the most demanding scenes, but the experience stayed playable. For gamers who aren't chasing 4K ultra settings every night, this combo hits a sweet spot between price and performance. Memory is another area where the system feels generous. 32 GB of DDR5 running at 6000 MHz. That's more than enough for modern games, and it also gives you headroom for streaming, video editing, or running virtual machines without feeling cramped. In my tests, loading times were practically instant thanks to the dual-drive setup, a 1TB NVMe SSD for the OS and primary games, plus a 1TB SATA SSD for bulk storage. The NVMe drive delivered sub-second boot times, while the SATA drive handled larger libraries without a noticeable slowdown. Now, the practical strengths that matter after you pull the plug and start playing. First, the water cooling system is pre-installed and runs quietly, even under sustained loads. I ran a stress test for about an hour, and the fans never rose above a soft hum. That quiet operation is a relief if you plan to game late at night or have a roommate who's sensitive to noise. Second, the power supply is an 850W unit, which means you have ample headroom for future upgrades, maybe a bigger GPU or an additional drive without worrying about hitting the limit. Third, the system arrives fully assembled in the US, so you skip the dreaded build-it-yourself headache and can plug it straight into a monitor, keyboard, and mouse. On the flip side, there are a few hidden trade-offs that buyers should be aware of before clicking Add to Cart. The case, while eye-catching, is on the larger side, so you'll need a decent amount of floor or desk space. If you're used to compact mini IDX rigs, this could be a problem. The pink finish, while unique, is a permanent color choice. Unlike a standard black or white chassis, you can't simply paint it over without some effort. Also, the included keyboard and mouse are basic, functional peripherals. They won't satisfy someone looking for a high-end mechanical keyboard or a gaming mouse with ultra-high DPI. Finally, the RX 9070 XT, while capable, isn't a top-tier GPU. If you plan to jump into 4K gaming or want the absolute highest settings in the most demanding titles, you'll eventually need to upgrade the graphics card. So, who should buy this Ocean Park pink beast? If you're a gamer who values a ready-to-play experience, wants a respectable amount of RAM and storage without having to choose between SSD speed and capacity, and appreciates a bit of personality in your setup, this machine checks the boxes. It's also a solid option for content creators who need multitasking muscle. Those 32 GB of DDR5 and the dual-drive configuration make rendering and exporting videos smoother than many mid-range laptops. The fact that it's assembled stateside also gives you some peace of mind about build quality and support. Who should skip it? If you're a competitive esport player who demands the absolute highest frame rates at the highest resolutions, the GPU may feel limiting after a year or two. Likewise, if space is at a premium, think small dorm rooms or cramped workstations, the oversized chassis could become a nuisance. And if you're a minimalist who prefers a stealthy, low-profile look. The bright pink finish might clash with your aesthetic. In those cases, looking for a more traditional black tower or a custom-built solution could be a better fit. Overall, the value proposition comes from the balance of performance, memory, storage, and the convenience of a pre-built system. You avoid the guesswork of pairing a CPU and GPU. You get a high-speed DDR5